seagulls follow the shore, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes! There we go. That was really weird. The whole intro music, I didn't hear one bit. It's good to be back.
You're actually back now. The connection's all fine, yes.
The boy is back. The Bhoycie Bus is back, revved up. And by the way, before we even get started on today's Monday Club, is this what we're doing? We're doing a Monday Club now?
It's a Monday show on a Monday. Can you imagine that?
I like that.
Monday madness.
It's good to see you boys. Well, a big thank you first and foremost before we even get started to Phil and yourself, David, for driving the bus in my absence over the last week. GP says he can hear me now. That's a good thing, man. We got it all sorted. There was a lot of tantrums last night. A lot. Phoned David this morning. He helped me with the teething problems. He says having your mic on the deck, Boyce, black and blue, is not a good help to get the situation resolved. Turns out it was just a noise cancellation, some bullshit like that. Anyway, we are going to do all that good stuff and then get into talking about the Glasgow Celtic. I am in new surroundings. I hope I sound as normal as I normally do.
You do, yeah. Sound quality's fine.
I hope I look better than ever. No coming back for that. Anyway, all that good stuff means, Phil, it means hit subscribe if you've not already. 3,477, I think we're on. I already have. They can't be wrong. I trust their judgment. You can do the same. Of course, you absolutely hee-haw. If you want to give us a wee like, do it now. Hit the like button because it gets us all that traction and makes the bus busier and busier and busier. If you want to share us on your socials, even better. That always helps. And if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, I've not done this for so long. Like Scott Howe, like Scott Howe, like Scott Howe. All right, okay, getting on. Like Jim Dolan, Scott Howe, GP1888. Balls to the walls. Some good names coming in here already. This is good. So yes, if you want to do that, it's $1.99 a month. It's totally optional. Our content will always be free. But yes, I am in new surroundings, gentlemen.
Very nice.
This is going to become the new. I've got the pool table arriving this week. I'm not even joking, mate. The only problem I've got with it, my mate's bought it for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a kind soul. but it's blue felt.
Oh, wow,
It'll
okay.
be controversial, that, eh? It'll be controversial, that. Folk will
Oh,
get the, like,
controversial.
folk will come out in a rash when they see that, eh? They will, eh?
You need to get that changed, Boycie.
Oh, I know.
You need to get
it's
that
so hard.
changed.
Like the
Chelsea
Tatty's
wasn't a
blue
fan.
gum shield, you know. You get that
Celtic
changed.
wasn't a fan. Celtic never seen my Celtic part. So with the plan will be going forward, I think I'm going to come on at this time on a Monday anyway. David, you never work, so you'd probably be on a Monday at this time anyway. I'm only kidding on 2.0. Right, but in general, I think too many have moved to doing the Mondays. So we're going to move again, and we'll see how many of them start doing Tuesdays. And they'll blame it. Oh, that's how they got the views. It was. We'll see. So we're going to start doing. Me and Jonathan will just do the Tuesday club, on a Monday at 12:30. Your phone. I'm going to come on at the same time as the wee fella, just for the banter. He's not going to give you a paper cut, Phil. Don't worry about it. It's banter, mate. It's like,
the Monday afternoon.
He's not one of the Cray twins, mate. He's not one of the Cray twins. Honestly, it's fine. We can come on whenever the fuck we want.
Yes,
but I think Monday lunchtime will be fun. That is a good spell. Anyway, boys,
hey,
we're going to talk about some Celtic today, aren't we?
We are
talking
about
plan, we are talking about the 112 million turnovering Glasgow Celtic. What was it, Tony? How you used to call them?
But rolling free scoring, never boring, Glasgow Celtic.
Now they are the money turning Glasgow Celtic. They are making a fortune these days. I don't know. Well, we're going to find out. The one thing we will do on the bus is be consistent. Now, I surmised 5-6 months ago, guys, that we were going to have record turnover amounts. I didn't expect it to be 10 million over our record, but it is. That's where we're at. And whilst it's International Week, and you don't need to worry about players, we'll talk about Kyogo and all that shite. But in the broader scheme of things, Phil, I'll come at you first. That money that Celtic's turning over, it's a blessing, right? It's an amazing thing.
Yep.
Does it turn, though, the torch a wee bit more on the club, and suddenly, like, all the loving that Andrew's got, the honeymoon period, I think could become over the summer if we don't. No one's daft. No one's zipped up at the back. Nobody come down the Clyde in a banana boat, Phil. Eventually, get to a stage where you go, okay, are we really seeing a reinvestment in that in the squad? Are we seeing that in the stadium, in the training facilities, whatever it may be? There's now going to be a different look on it, eh? It's going to change eventually, and we like seeing record turnover, Phil. We love seeing Celtic in a healthy financial position, but eventually, I think the glances, they go away from being fanciful to eventually now scrutinising it. Where are Celtic going to put this money, and are they going to spend any of it?
The $6 million question. I mean, from a fan point of view, naturally, it's not as black and white as we just go and have a crazy spending spree. It's got to be a case of the players that come in. It can't just be guys that are here to boost the squad and be a bit of filler. It needs to be guys that are always first team ready now. We're going to have a second crack at the Champions League under Ange, this automatic qualification, which will bring even more revenue, of course, as we know. It needs to be players that are going to come in and make us, be able to put up a bit of a fight now instead of going down so meekly again. Because
totally agree.
It's hard, with the Champions League, it's true that there is no easy games, but that group that we had was favourable. The chances of that lining up again and getting a group of that type of calibre is going to be very, very unlikely in September when the draw's made. So it's we've got to bring in players that can make us actually compete again at that level, because that is what we're going to be judged. Let's say if we have another window where it's all about quality, not quantity. Last summer window, a lot of players came in, so people were like, what a great window. But when it's all kind of, when the dust is settled on it, you've seen guys like Abelgard have their loan cut short and so forth. And in the end, was it really an amazing window? I think people were blinded by the number of players coming in. It's a case of now the players that do come in, I'm going in favour of less players coming in as long as they improve the first 11. That's going to be
Phil, I think as well, when you talk about the summer window, one of the other differences was, I don't know if David agrees with this, was it was described, and I think we were guilty of it, maybe falling into the trap as well on the bus, because we're pretty reactionary. I think, David, at times we thought that when rhetoric was getting used, like best transfer window ever. Maybe some of us fell in that trap. I think when you look back, and I know Phil was watching TalkSport this morning, so we'll have a wee laugh at
I
this.
was watching you about it.
The optics of that window aren't as compelling as we thought, are they?
No, it's when you look back on it now, you almost imagine it as like this of just a plaster getting put over a massive gaping European wound, and we thought, well, rather than just one plaster, they've put 2 or 3 or 4 over this one gaping wound rather than putting a nice big bandage over it, you know. And now these plasters like Jens and Abelgard have just peeled away as the day's gone on and left this huge, infesting, horrible wound that we do so desperately want to be fixing. So yeah, I'm in agreement with Phil. I think I'd be more satisfied if we only brought in 1 or 2, if they were going to be top quality players that would
compelling signatures.
Yeah, well, put it this way: would you guys be happy? I know we'll use the Dembele argument as something to go for.
He's hosting already, Phil, isn't he? He's already hosting, isn't he?
I mean, it's about brunch time, isn't it? So he's in that mood.
David White.
It's brunch time, man. David. All I'm going to say, guys, is right. Stop talking over me. We can't hear anything if you're all talking over me, right? If we were to only sign Dembele and kept the pure core of the team, the spine of the team, we didn't sell any of our big assets, and we only brought in like a Dembele to go up front, I would probably be satisfied with that, because you know right away, okay, we've spent the money on a player that you know for a fact is going to be there for European football, and you know can do the damage in European football.
Yeah, player of that caliber.
Phil, I mean, the talk of Dembele shouldn't be as fanciful as what it is. The reality is, Celtic are in a position they could afford that free transfer and bring a king home. He is a king, not the king, but he is a king. I think Dembele comes in, it rocks the socks of Scottish football. It would rock us. Emotional. Folk forget, they want to... Everyone wants to quantify Celtic as a business at times. The reason we fell in love with Celtic is for the romance. You need moments of romance at times, Phil. You need something that just goes, that fairy tale really is happening. I don't know. I mean, I think the Dembele thing won't happen. But at the same time, why not? Like, there's no reason really we shouldn't be. And I don't think Dembele is the literally the problem. It's about something of that example David's talking about. Sign that was a real statement signing that really does cost a few quid in wages, but also takes us to that next level. Dembele's a case in point because we know he's available. That's why we're not completely deluded when we think like we're actually going to go out and get him. But at the same time, are we conditioned, Phil, to think it is delusion to be able to afford a free transfer, Mr. Dembele? Because his wages are too high.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a comment left on one of that might have been last night's Sunday sesh, but I definitely read something under the video on YouTube. But again, it was like, you know, you can't just bring in Dembele on 60k a week while the rest of the team are on much less, and it's going to cause disharmony and all that. But let's just say it's not just Dembele, you know, just a player of that caliber. You know, what's wrong with us going out there and try to get it done? Because that is the next step.
That's exactly it.
We need to. People are, when we're saying Dembele, I find people are getting too attached. We're talking much about him. Obviously, it'd be amazing if it did happen because we know what we get with him. But just a player of that level, Celtic have shown that we can get them. You know,
Phil, what about Mohamed Elyounoussi? Would you take him back?
I think Elyounoussi would do.
I don't think he's of that higher caliber we're talking about.
No, you don't put him in the category. I'm only just
he's not
looking at.
He's not in Dembele's caliber, but I think he's a player that would probably do well in Ange's system that we talk about. I think he's got
losing a Bada,
but he's not.
But you're losing a Bada, you'd be almost like Mohamed Elyounoussi would be a player you could probably say is in that category. I'm only saying that because I'm looking at who's available for in the summer, and he is out of contract in the summer with a Southampton probably going down in the summer. Just as that, you know, these are kind of names that are just sticking out to me right now that you're like, well. He realms a possibility there. Would he be another player you'd look? I know we've just named 2 players that have already played for the club, and a lot of people are kind of against the whole going back. But I know a lot of people.
What if I tell you this? What, even though Dembele's on a free, what if there was another striker that was more available this summer? Cut price. I think Odsonne Edouard will be up for sale at Crystal Palace this summer. And I think they would be willing listeners to anything realistic. Would you have him back?
I think Edward's a quality player, no doubt about it. I think he gets a really bad time because of the way the 10 in a row season went, despite the fact he still scored, I believe, 23 or 24 goals that season. So he was performing not too bad, but unfortunately he's
everyone forgets that though, Phil. Everyone forgets that because they look at that season as a whole and in general, and he was a face of it, but they're not realising, you're absolutely right, the amount of goals he I that year. I think he will be a person of interest.
Well, Ange did get a brief time working with him.
But I also don't think his trajectory next for Odds, and I'll come back to you, Phil, on this, I don't think his next move will be upwards of Crystal Palace. It's going to be at least sideways, or it's going to regress. And I think that makes us part of that equation again. Would he have the appetite to work? And Patrick's right, would you want that lazy attitude back? I think, again, sometimes as a disservice, I think his nature, he looks lackadaisical. I don't always think that necessarily means he's not got a work rate, lesser or more than anyone else. I think his demeanour, he is that person, Phil, right? He just looks like that. Would he be... I think, I've seen someone else, would Dembele fit Angie's system? For me, these guys, either Edouard or Dembele, as far as I'm concerned, good players fit good systems. It doesn't matter who they are. And Quinny's saying Eddie's not coming back. I get all this shit. I get this. I'm just saying what we're trying to do right now, this summer, with more funds, more resources than we've had in a hell of a long time, and the evidence is there. And I'm sure at times Celtic wish Company's House wasn't a thing because you can see they've got to announce it all. The microscope will be put on this club. It will be put on them to go, what are you doing? And I think I speak for the three of us, we are looking at these guys of a certain level that would come and cost a certain amount of money that we think is feasible considering what's sitting there in the tank. Does that make sense?
It does. Aye, it does. It's while I trust Ange with all of his contacts and the players he's been able to get over the last year and a half, 2 years, where the prices he's got, I don't think there's anything wrong with just going for that sort of high wage or 7 million, 8 million plus type player. I think it's that marquee signing. It says the best way to describe it is a player that would get a signing that gets you hot under the collar. And speaking of which, I'm a little bit warm under the collar, so I think you take the cap off right now. Because what's going on mid-afternoon as well, the sun is beating on my window right now. The window faces south. It's really warm here. So I thought I would take this off, and there you go. The Bhoycie Bus shirt, which you didn't plug at the start, I noticed, but here we are, I'm wearing mine. There you go. Bhoycie Bus shirt, Hard Barber sponsor, everything on it. Fantastic. Fits perfectly.
I think mine's got lost. Still not turned up yet.
Still not turned up, no.
I just messaged the guys. The package came for me yet, guys. Nope. I'm like, okay. Maybe tomorrow. That'll turn up. It's just Leslie. Leslie's hard to find.
I think Liam in Canada is going to get us before yours, mate. Cheers for sponsoring all that, though.
Anymore.
But yes, to the viewers here.
Phil, that looks magnificent, mate. That looks magnificent. You've worn some ridiculously cool kits on here. I think that's up there. Brown wants you to drop it a bit. There we go.
There you go. Lift up a wee bit.
Lovely job,
That's
Leslie.
sensational.
I won't drop it a bit and subject it to my beard.
How does it feel? How does it feel on?
It's fine. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. It fits absolutely perfectly.
Nice. That's what you want to know. It's what you want to know, mate. It's all about comfort when you hit a certain age, Phil.
Yeah. But no, fantastic. Very, very happy with it. So yeah, arrived this morning. So when you were saying about going on the day, I was like, we need to now go on. We need to. So there you go.
Are we getting a Samba deal next? Harborough Sambas.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this Samba thing. Is the general gist that people have been offended by this latest venture by Celtic?
I think more people like it than not. From when we were discussing it on DNF, a lot of comments coming up saying that they like the look of them. Certainly the look of them, whether they live up to the initial sort of advert, I don't know. I'm not a massive... For me, like my brother loves collecting these kind of shoes. He's got loads of them, and my cousin's the same. They've got them all pristine, and I'm like, they barely wear them. Whereas I just buy a pair of trainers and absolutely destroy them, and then I'll buy another pair. But people that do like to buy these kind of shoes, they're almost a collector's edition. And if you're a Sambas or Adidas collector and a Celtic fan, it's a no-brainer for, I reckon. I mean, I think they look nice. I think they look really smart.
Are Celtic exposing their fan base by doing it? That's the question I'm asking. I personally don't, but it's not relevant what I think. I'm putting the question out there. Do you think on the back of a fourth kit just been released, completely playing to the plastic paddies narrative that people don't like hearing, by doing it on, with the big massive clover, it's oversized on the jersey. It came out at the same time as St. Paddy's Day. And then a week later doing the Sambas. Do people have a wee bit of an argument, Phil, to say that's a wee bit pushing it? Or is this what business is all about? And if there is a market to buy it, it is supply and demand.
Yeah.
And it's good to see Celtic making as much revenue as they can for as many ventures as possible.
I think an acid test would be to look at the other clubs that Adidas supply for and see what they've churned out for them. Like, I can't even think of one off the top of my head right now. I know that we talked about the Scotland national team shirt the other night and the £90 price mark for that, which was a bit absurd. But yeah, I'd be interested to go on another club's like Superstore website that's Adidas and just see what they've done. But you just mentioned it, but I didn't think of the whole St. Paddy's Day thing with that kit getting launched when it did. Didn't even dawn on me. Would be interesting to see that one. I have said before on the show, I think if Adidas looked at all the clubs that they do kits for this year, I've got a funny feeling the black and green away kit for Celtic is probably one of the biggest selling kits they've got around the world. So they know that Celtic fans are just going crazy for all of Adidas merch. But yeah, I'm going to have a look later on and look at some other clubs that have got Adidas as their sponsor this year and just see if, they've been releasing Sambas for I can't think of a club right now off the top of my head that's got Adidas. It's Man United, actually. Man United did Adidas. They would be a good one. Arsenal. Yeah. So I wonder if they've got like Adidas Sambas, Man United editions and stuff. So be interested to see that. But no, if there's supplies there, they're always going to do it. They're going to just look at the price and go, well, that worked. Let's do it again. Let's release another kit. Supply and demand. It's simple business.
David, if not that, why don't we just sprint up and down Celtic Park at half time? See whoever wins.
I'm looking at the website now, and I can't find these Sambas at all. So I reckon they're sold out already. So I think that says all you need to know.
They're talking shite, mate. Trust me, if you want to buy a pair, you'll get them, right?
I'll go on the hunt. But if you're going to get into bed with a manufacturer like Adidas, then this is part and parcel with it, I'm afraid. Like, when you look at, Arsenal is one club. They've been bringing out retro gear for as long as I can remember. I'm thinking, they're quite smart, them. Again, it's not necessarily something that I would wear, especially I'm not an Arsenal fan, but like, I could see the appeal that people would like to wear the kind of retro kits and retro training gear that like Arsenal and Man United have brought out over the years, being with Adidas. And Celtic have now, in a partnership with Adidas, this has probably been part and parcel of the contract. We will be releasing all this merchandise that comes along with putting the Celtic brand on. Does it feel like maybe that they're rinsing the fans? Well, maybe.
I think that's very much everyone's gift, David. Like, if you want to feel rinsed, you'll be rinsed.
Nobody's putting a gun to your head. Adidas aren't putting a gun to your head and saying, you have to buy this St. Paddy's kit, then you need to buy the third kit and the away kit. Now, I rarely buy the Celtic tops, but I bought the recently. But I bought the away kit because I thought it was really, really smart. But I wasn't willing to buy the home kit as well. I chose to just pick which kit I'm going to buy this year. I chose to buy the away one. I can understand the pressure that people feel. If they've got kids that want the kits and you've got 2 or 3 of them, well, it's unfortunately life's like that. You're going to have things like.
I thought you were doing a pee there, Phil.
Don't turn your telly on and put the adverts on if you're worried that your kids are going to want to buy something. It's up to you to decide whether you're willing to buy them Christmases and birthdays. And I understand not everyone's in a position to be able to do that, but that's not Adidas's problem, unfortunately, and it's not Celtic's problem either. They're just going to they're going to put out merchandise.
David, let's get fucking real here. When Celtic married up with Adidas, we knew what we were getting.
Yeah, that's what I said. You knew what you were going to get.
This was the content we wanted. We wanted hundreds of gear. Like, I'm sitting and I've got that mint green one. The mint green Adidas zippy, I think, is one of the nicest ones they've done. The white one with the gold and the green stripes. And what's going to happen is, yes, they're going to milk it, but this is a relationship or a marriage made in heaven as far as business people. See, whenever Celtic release something like a pair of Sambas, Phil, this isn't done off the cuff. This is done after 10, 20 heads get together that know business and they go, that's going to make sense. That's going to make us money. And I don't get me wrong, I felt the weeks after the St. Paddy's Day one was slightly surprising. I didn't expect it to be as sudden after that. But again, I mean, if they've got an audience, mate, that are going to, it's not bowing to it either. It's costing people a fortune. They're not forced into buying these things. And that's, I think, the difference. I think, for me, we can't sit here and go, oh, Celtic should be doing this, should be doing that to make more revenue, or they could have a fan zone outside. It's the same principle as if you've got a partnership with Adidas, sell more clobber. You might be surprised at the results. I don't see anything wrong in that.
No, nothing at all. We talked about it on Thursday, and David said that, people can spend their money on whatever they like and so on. Yeah, some of the prices are a bit absurd, but hey, if you can afford it, then all the power to you. There are people that can. And say Adidas will just look at the sales. They don't care about, what ones are selling, as long as things are selling, and it will always trigger them doing more. So, we knew at the time. And you're right. I can remember when we got the Adidas deal, I can remember many fans being happy, not more for the kits, the actual, all the other clobber that comes with it. Because Adidas is such a huge, huge brand. I mean, the two big ones in sportswear is Nike and Adidas. If you've got one of them, then you're quid's in.
Right,
so,
let's have it then. David, Nike or Adidas for the Celtic kits?
I've always liked Adidas, so I over Nike, so I'm going to say Adidas.
I mean, I think they both had Adidas. I don't know, man. I think I'm Nike. And I love Adidas. Obviously, I wear Adidas pants for fuck's sake. But do you know what I mean? I think the Nike kits just edge it a wee bit. I think the tracky tops that Adidas have done have been unbelievable. But Steve O'Matt sent me a fucking eBay thing of a 125 years anniversary Nike Celtic top that they released in 2012. That would have been, and I'd never seen it before. It was unbelievable. He couldn't believe I wouldn't fit a medium. He went, is everyone a midget on here? Honestly, mate. That's the way to think I'm taller than David.
You did say it when you met me. You couldn't believe it.
I could not. I was convinced you were the size of a wrestler. I was like, it's definitely you, David. In fact, the honest truth is the wee fella's taller than me, but just nobody likes hearing that. Anyway, in terms of the kits, Phil, I think the Nike ones, Celtic and Nike did some nice ones, eh? I think the Nike ones are better than the Adidas Celtic kits so far.
Well, funny enough, the top I'm wearing just now is based off of the hoop style was based off of what, Russell, in particular? 2012-13? Done by Nike?
Yes.
It was
the hoops are the exact same size to the millimetre of the white hoops we beat Barcelona in 125 years. Remember, I've told you before, and I like repeating it, I share the same birthday as Celtic. Exactly, David, 100 years apart. That's fucking madness. So I was 25 the day Celtic were 125, etc. And those hoops Phil's wearing right now are the exact same width to the millimetre, as I say, of the night Tony Watt put the second goal past Barcelona. But yeah, I think what you realise is kits. Me and Mark spoke about this in the summer, and it was a brilliant debate because he was kind of singing for the same spreadsheet as me.
Singing from the same spreadsheet, Charlie.
I was waiting for a laugh there. I didn't get one. Tough crowd today, like. Anyway, the thing is with kits, do you feel that when you've got 4 kits this season, 4, and next season there's going to be another 3, that's in the space of 12 months, 7 different kits. None of them hold that status, I don't think, if that makes sense.
Correct. They're giving it time to breathe, essentially. You know,
Yeah.
it's I've said
There's no
before about
legacy, Phil.
I've said before with like away kits in particular. You know, they can live forever if they're associated with an iconic moment. But yeah, we just seem to move from one to the other. I mean, this black and green one this season, I say one of the biggest sellers, I'd imagine. But we've only worn it just a handful of times, and there's nothing really iconic attached to it. So it's a shame because there's some of the kits down the years, you know, it takes one great moment in it and it will live forever. But we just move on to different ones all the time. And this, I mean, the idea that we've got 4 this season now is just ridiculous. I mean, will we
Now we get into it though. Now we get
Yeah.
into it because is there, David, an emotional attachment to it, or are we picking and choosing when we want Celtic to thrive as a business in the modern world, but we also want it to be romantic? And are you lost in the halfway house at times, David, when you're in that conundrum and you go, I don't really want us doing 4 kits, but then the day before that you were saying, I want Celtic to explore all avenues of revenue. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
You cannot win.
No, I want Celtic to make lots of money to benefit the club, but not that way. Don't do it that way, because I'm not willing to spend all that money on 4 kits in a season. It's finding. I suppose Celtic just need to find a balance and act on how maybe they want to. No, they don't. They don't have to find a balance. It's Celtic's gift to make money any way they want. It's our gift as a fans whether to spend the money there.
It's the buyer's choice, David. It's the buyer's choice.
Dealer's choice, as they say. So, no, it's not Celtic's. It's not Celtic's problem there, which was a way to say, but it really isn't. It's our problem. We have to kind of find a way on fighting with our morals and our pockets. And
well, here comes Monty, Phil. Monty comes straight in saying avenues of revenue should never result in fleecing our support. I get it, by the way. I'm not. I feel a wee bit sort of in the midst of this because I go, but is it fleecing them, Monty? Are they fleecing them if people want to buy it?
You said you can't come into Celtic. You can't come into Celtic Park and support the club unless you buy this 4th kit.
No, and if people's new trainers arrived this morning and they're as buzzing as Phil is wearing the Bhoycie Bus t-shirt, have the viewers been fleeced by me selling the football shirt? I don't think so. I don't think so, Phil. I think it's completely optional. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like Jim C, like Scott Howe, like Scott Howe, like Scott. But if you want to become a member, we're not fleecing you. It's entirely your gift if you want to do it. And I think when you look back at the money, and I've told you this before, BT Sport and Sky were sharing the broadcasting rights, and I actually thought the product was unbelievable then. Right? Because BT were definitely going, we're going to do it better than Sky. And they upped their game. But the fact of the matter was, BT did not actually value it as a worthwhile investment. And they offered the same amount of money that they just paid for 3 years for half of the rights. They bid for the full rights. I know this for a fact. Folk can ask me why, DM me, and I'll explain. I know this for a fact. Sky Sports have put in the money they have. People hate Sky, but they're the only show in town for us. There is no other show. There is no other option of offering us money. And yes, we know it seems very low, right? And yes, we compare it with England, and it's pitiful.
Yeah.
That's not a realistic comparison, first and foremost. Secondly, when it comes to the money thing, Phil, that shows you how little money this club generates out with its season tickets. And when you have a marriage with someone like Adidas, unfortunately for us, we have to milk it.
Yeah, we do. Although how much of the revenue goes to Adidas and how much goes to the club? Because there's that whole split as well.
Well, there's good business people here though at work, Phil. Let's be real here. This is not a Custody deal. This is the Mike Ashley's deal was. I would like to think Celtic as a brand is pretty profitable for Adidas, and Celtic have enough wedge in that conversation, enough weight to say these are the terms. I don't think this will be a one-sided show. We're not fucking part-time football, mate.
No.
We're a world famous club. You go anywhere in the world and you will see hoops.
Oh,
I think Adidas, let's say it, first time in the new gaff, I think Adidas were acutely aware of that, Phil,
yes, they
the
were.
whole time. So I don't think this will be a one-sided deal. Absolutely not. It might just come with caveats of you're going to piss the likes of Monty off because we're going to need to milk it a bit. And that might go against the grain. And I take Monty's point of view on it, by the way. And I think there's a lot more fans other than just Monty who feel like that. But I also think, notwithstanding that, when you look at Celtic as a brand and the prospects and the hurdles we've got to face, guys, in Champions League football, we need every little avenue we can take to bring in revenue. Unfortunately, it's just that's where we're at. Do you know what I mean? And right now, as I've just said about the TV stuff, that's meant seeing, for example, I'll come at you, David, right? This is mental, right? Burnley played Aberdeen, Europa League qualifier. You remember that about 5 years ago?
Yeah.
They'd finished 7th in the EPL. And before the game, this was genuinely what came up on the screen because money means that much. 90% of their income the previous year had been out with tickets. Aberdeen were 60% of their revenue was tickets. That tells you how less the commercial revenues are. Right? So we kind of need to play ball a wee bit, and it's shit, but I think Celtic are doing the right thing with the Adidas. I don't think they've got a choice.
You've got into bed with a. Let's face it, they're not just a sports brand. They're a fashion. They're a fashionable company. You know, you look at Adidas and they're recognizable over the world. And when you get into bed with a company like that, they don't just do sportswear. You don't just wear Adidas to go and play football in or jog in, or you wear it as casual clothing as well. They're bringing out casual clothing lines also. And then we're living in a world of fast fashion, unfortunately, where clothes aren't built to last anymore. Because the way the world works now is people's attention span doesn't last that long. Monty mentioned earlier in the comments about having your away kit and your home kit, and it lasts 2 to 3 seasons. Unfortunately, today's fans get bored very quickly. That's how the way the world works. You get bored, you move on to new things very quickly. If Celtic were to do that, they're just, it becomes stale. It becomes stale in a lot of the eyes of the consumer. And if Celtic want to make money to work as and operate as a club that makes that kind of money, they have to go with the times, and that's just the times that we live in, unfortunately.
Phil, Big Red comes in. I hope it's not Red Scotland because he's a fucking plant pot, whoever that idiot is, by the way. And I'll tell you that right now for nothing. I think he's some sort of veteran of watching podcasts. He's an embarrassment, that idiot. Splitting the Celtic support and all that. Oh, aye, man. That's
Sinister
my
pod that we are. Yes.
Oh, aye. Like, I'm out to split the divide. Sharp Red Scotland, you fucking clown. But Big Red comes in and he seems all right. And he says they've got the Japanese market now. But Phil, we discussed this on last summer. We felt the open goal, not that open goal, not R.I.P. Broomhill, but we felt the open goal would have been at one of the away kits being a yellow with a green collar in the mould of the Australia kit.
Yes.
And we thought with Angie's popularity, that would be something Celtic went down. They've not yet. Big Red now wants to know if we're going to try and tap in the Japanese market, and I totally get where he's coming from.
Well, I hope we don't go fully in on that because the Japanese home kit is blue, so I don't think that would go down too well with many of the Celtics. We're given Hitati gets a lot of flack for wearing a blue gum shield. But the yellow and green was a very obvious one. We were convinced of it last year. And see, after when we lost that game to St Mirren with the grey kit on, and that's when the rumours began that Celtic were going to release a 4th kit for the next time we play St Mirren. We've got something. Obviously, we didn't do it. We did release a 4th kit in the end, but it wasn't exactly what we were all thinking when it was the green one. But yeah, I was convinced we'll go over the yellow and green, and that might be something next season. That might be. You never know. We may see that happen because right now, it's a huge market for us in Australia. I mean, Ange Postecoglou is a national hero there. So a yellow and green Celtic.
Yes. My God. I
Yeah,
see
again,
that coming.
and again, going back to what we just talked about there, it's all about business and Adidas. You know, they'll be thinking, well, that's gonna rake in a lot of cash. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a yellow and green one next season. But
David B wants to buy a kimono. He wants a Celtic
kimono.
or he or she, I don't know. But B wants a Celtic silk kimono. Do you know why not? But Monty comes in with a different point here. And do you know what? I kind of agree with this. I get where he's coming this bit. And he says it's the families who feel pressure to buy their kids the constant strips. Now, you're a dad. I know maybe your daughter's not daft enough to want Sambas and grey away kits. But is there, whether it's Celtic related or not, David, is there a pressure on parents to get what's in vogue? And are Celtic milking that a wee bit too much? Has Monty got a wee bit of a vibe there?
Yes, he does. He definitely does. But unfortunately, that pressure's going to be there in any aspect of life, and I suppose it's down to. It is a difficult one because I get that. I feel that pressure sometimes as well. But
fair enough, Dave. I think Monty's asking that in a good way.
Yep. However, I also don't have a problem just saying no, and I don't like disappointing. Nobody wants to disappoint their kids.
David, did you feel under pressure when your delivery arrived today?
I was feeling under pressure that it wasn't arriving today, but breaking news, guys. My Bhoycie Bus shirt has arrived at the shop, and I can't wait to go pick it up.
Fantastic. Yes. That's good to hear, mate. That is good to hear.
But yes, back to his original point. I totally understand what he's saying. It's just a tough world that we live in, and unfortunately, there's no really getting away from that. You're always going to have the pressures of your kids wanting you to buy the latest phone or toy or whatever it is, and if you can't do it, you can't do it, and that's just a life lesson that we all had to learn as a child. There was plenty of times I wanted something that I got told no, and maybe it's just again the way the world is just now. We find it harder to say no these days and put ourselves into pressure and put ourselves into positions that we don't want to be in. But that's just we all just have to live and learn that unfortunate life lesson.
The thing is, we're talking about Celtic as a global brand, Phil, right? We're talking about the exposure Celtic get as a club. How come it seems, and by the way, this is a new narrative getting forced by the media and driven by the media because they're trying to upset the apple cart. Notwithstanding that, I do kind of agree with it to an extent. But right now, everyone in the media, the mainstream, is trying to push the narrative, play for Celtic, you won't get international recognition. Like we're talking about the kids go to Disneyland in Florida and everyone will see your hoops. But yeah, internationally, we've got a guy called Kyogo.
Yep.
We've got a guy called Rio Tate. And in our ignorant minds, first and foremost, the reason they don't get called up for Japan is because Japan's snidey to our league. We've got no understanding or acceptance of the ability of the other 24 players picked ahead of them. We just see it from our prism, and we're going to let the daily records of the world tell us, turn down again, but it's because of the league. Is it going to become, though, a concern, Phil, if players do play for Celtic and don't feel joining Celtic is going to help their international recognition? Now, Mark made a few points to the Sunday Blether that, yes, but his relevance arguments were England, and I think England are an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
I think the countries most of our players represent don't tend to be from the richest, the country that's got the richest league in world football. And it's funny, we're a wee bit in shock, I think, in Scotland that Japan could have 24 players, better than what we've seen. But have we seen any of these other guys? Do we know anything about them? Do we fuck? We're just ignorant as anything and think we've got the right and the gift, as I always like to say, to go, Kyogo must be Japan's best striker. Based on what? Name me the other three.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Aye.
You cannot do it. You cannot name the other three, right? But to play devil's advocate, does word go round the campfire eventually between players that going into Scottish football, the backwater that it is going to harm your international aspirations?
I think a lot of depends on the country you're talking about in particular. Because you say when it comes to like England, the real elite nations, your top nations, France, Germany, and so forth, an actual international for those types playing in Scotland, it's very unlikely. But for teams like Japan, it can. I mean, they must have a good team in terms of like their technical ability. It's easy for us to say, Tatati, easily the best midfield in Japan. It's up to, we saw them at the World Cup, how well they performed. That was without Hitati, without Kyogo. So no, I don't think.
Is there mischief at work then? Because there's undeniably, Phil, right now, a narrative going round like they're excluded again. Let's make this a negative. Is there a bit of like Quinny's coming in there, and it's great to have Quinny on any time he is. And he says, it didn't even recognise international goalkeeper, it was a squad for friendlies. That's not what you would believe though by reading the headlines, is it?
It wouldn't be like the Scottish media to tear down its own league, would it? I don't think any country in the world has a media that genuinely just doesn't do anything to promote the league at all. It's interesting to know that they're saying this and it's kind of sitting around us. What does that say for the beloved team across the Clyde from us, in terms of like their internationals and so forth, if they even got any? It's weird that they're kind of saying it about Celtic. Oh, these Celtic players not getting picked and all that. It's a bad thing. They might, it might be detrimental to the international
career. 12 players out of contract, mate, and nobody cares. It's funny that. Imagine Celtic being in that position, David. Do you think they would worry about international call-ups? I think we'd be a club in crisis if we were in their shoes.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm pretty sure that there wasn't much made out of. Apparently, Hadji was meant to be getting a call up, apparently, and it was in the papers that he wasn't called up, and the only person that made any sort of note of that was some international paper, I think, in his home country. But nothing's been said at all in the local papers about his omission from the club, whether it's to do with a lack of playing time. I don't know. I know he's not been fit for a long time, but
are we too easily insulted by it, David?
What, our players aren't getting called up? Don't know if insulted's the word. Many of our fans are quite happy when our players don't get picked because a lot of our fans don't really care for the international games. But I think it's just blown out of proportion, and it's just another way the media can try and just sell papers, get under Celtic, try to get under fans' skins. Oh, Kyogo's not been picked again. He'll be wanting to leave. He'll be wanting to leave in the summer. Yeah, he seems pretty happy at Celtic.
David, I think you've absolutely nailed it. I think they're looking for that way round where they can say, maybe Celtic's not as attractive as it was. Everything is to try and downplay what's going on right now. Well, look, see if Japan have 24, 25 players better than our favourites, Rio, Tate, Kyogo. That's okay with me. That's up to them. That's fine. Good on them. What we want, though, is these guys to not fall for the bullshit that's getting portrayed right now, Phil, where joining Celtic could take you a step backwards in your international aspirations. And I think that's where there's a bit of naughtiness creeping in. And I think I can see through it a wee bit. I go, no, you're trying to derail something, or not even derail is a bit strong. They're trying to downplay.
Yeah.
Let's find a negative in amongst what has just been the most positive period for Celtic in so long. Like, I know we were at the back of a quadruple treble. It was one bad year. But that one bad year felt like it lasted a decade because it was we're not accustomed to it. Yeah. Andrew's came in and turned the whole feeling around. He's turned the whole vibe around. And what we've actually got now from that is a force of nature. A force of nature. Folk aren't comfortable with being this good. And I think right now you've got a situation where let's contrast and compare. And David was like, these are pricks signing folk for 250 grand for fucking the second tier in England. 6 months left, and they're probably paid in about 14 installments and all. Well done. Right?
Yep.
These guys are getting heralded as brilliant. Standard Liège reserves, best midfield in the country.
Yep.
Transfer market, I've told you about them. Now pitching these guys rated at 10 million quid and all this nonsense.
Yep.
Are they though? I think the more oxygen you give this, the better at times. We can have a laugh on it on the bus.
Yep.
But I think at times, see when you speak enough pish, you start buying into it. You start believing it. And for me, that's going to be their downfall, because I think where Ange's been shopping of late has been excellent work.
Yep.
I think when he's going to be shopping this summer, if me and David get our wish and you get our wish, we'll be in a different supermarket for what we've seen so far. And with his track record already, we will see who the big deal in town is. And, you know, I don't think Asda's going to get them through it next season, mate.
No, definitely not. They can try all they want. The media will try to disrupt us and this whole narrative that going to Celtic might be detrimental. But we've got the biggest ace up our sleeve, Ange Postecoglou. How many players so far have signed and have said they had a good conversation with Postecoglou and that was it? That was enough to sway them. I think no matter what noise they're making from the outside, the mainstream media try to disrupt things. I think it's to take one conversation for a player with Ange, and he'll have them in the door signing up, no problem. And because he's the biggest ace up the sleeve right now. Obviously, there's a lot of naughtiness going on still, and I think it'll continue this week with another vacancy in England that they're going to. Because in England, they won't even mention Ange's name, but up here, it'll be all the.
Let's talk about it, Phil.
Yeah.
Because if it's not Ange, it might be someone else who we're quite accustomed to, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
What do you make of Brendan Rodgers if he were to go to Spurs? Me and you spoke about this morning.
We did.
I think he would. I think he would absolutely rock. I think it's so easy to slag Brendan, right? And because of the way he left, I don't think that was always his way of wanting things to go. Do you think he would work at a team like Spurs? I do. Do you think Ange would work at a team like Spurs? Of course we do. I don't see Ange going there next.
No, definitely no. But no, I imagine the Scottish media will be pushing that one. But in terms of Brendan Rodgers, I think he would be driving down to London for the phones. Even the first ring on his phone, you would just see Daniel Levy's calling him, and he'd be right down there. I think he's hankering to get out of Leicester now because the investment has dried up, and he's definitely hit his glass ceiling at Leicester. That FA Cup win is the best he can realistically achieve now.
But you know though, Phil, he was 90 seconds away. If I'm not right, it was a last-minute goal that prevented him from getting Champions League with him.
I think it was, That's
ridiculous with Leicester. Like, then an FA Cup win. Like, I think he has went. They've reached an end pass. And do you know what's very interesting is they didn't get rid of him, David, for a reason. As much as relegation, it's easy to be hysterical. I think they know they've got the. If they were manager-less, David, and Brendan Rodgers was available, he would be their top target, right? It's just the shelf life of the EPL is so different. And again, this feeds into the argument I think a lot of us have when it comes to Ange going down there. This is a 58-year-old man. He's been there, seen it, done it, right? When it comes to the EPL, he is acutely aware, he is acutely aware that the shelf life there is so short. The time for him getting 7 games in, 4 defeats, 3 wins, or three. What was it? His first 7, 3 wins, 3 defeats, and a draw.
Yeah.
Right, and that's in the Scottish League. So in the English League, if you compare it, David, that would be probably 7 games, a draw, and 6 defeats. Right? He ain't going to get the shelf life, and he's going to have walked away from a place where he's a king. And he is a king right now. He has got the love in by the masses. I think you look at those 2 situations, you go, Brendan would be brilliant for Spurs. I'll get your thoughts on that. And secondly, Leicester, if that were to become available, wouldn't be enough for Orange. I don't think he'd be interested.
First of all, the Brendan Rodgers to Spurs situation, I think, is the dog. What they were talking about TalkSport today, actually, they mentioned the reason there was a fan that came on to TalkSport and he said he didn't believe Conte was the right fit at Spurs because Conte is a master tactician, but he's not got much of a reputation of making players better.
He's the prick's prick.
he's the whereas Brendan Rodgers is a bit of both. He's both. Brendan's a master tactician, but he's also got a good reputation of improving players that are already there. And I think that's maybe what Tottenham would be needing is like a Brendan Rodgers, a guy he's got the tactics there. He can manipulate the team the way he wants it, but he can also improve the players that are there as well.
Could not agree more. David, he would do brilliant there, mate.
Oh, he would do. I think he would do well. With the only concern he might have is Daniel Levy as a he doesn't like to give managers too much.
This is a guy who didn't get John McGinn, mate. Do you know what I mean? He's gonna have he's gonna be like chump change, and Spurs is like 20 million quid a player. He was signing freebies for Dundee United. Nah, he's fine. I think Rodgers walks in there, Phil, and he goes, the one thing that is his gift, he's a good coach. He's a proper coach. And I think Leicester then might be a realistic shout, or think they're a realistic shout, to attract Ange. And I think Ange would say, see you later, mate. I just don't envisage him falling in that trap.
No, I can't see it neither when it comes to, I mean, especially with there's still about 9 games to go. I can't see Ange walking out on Celtic, like part of a campaign still to go. He's the type of manager that would, if he was going to go somewhere, he wants to go from the start of a season. He doesn't want to come in midway through. And as far as I know as well, Leicester still aren't 100% safe. It's still close.
But the reason Rodgers is there, though, mate, and this is the truth, if you look at Leicester's results this year, they're not good enough, right?
Yeah, true.
Which is fine. The reason they've not jumped ship on him is because, as I say, I'll go back to it, if you've got a managerless position, right, you're looking at who's available. He would be, if he was available, their number one pick. So they've got to go with it. Like, they've got to stick with him. I think they've done the right thing. I think, actually, they don't know how good they are. That Ranieri thing is a one-off just look what he's done since and look what he did before. I don't know what happened that year. It was bizarre. But when you look now at Rodgers, I think too many fans, and I'm being honest, I feel too many fans want him to fail. I don't share that though. I don't share that skepticism. I don't know why. I don't share the same hate.
Yeah, I've been very vocal on here that I have no ill feelings with Brendan Rodgers. I've said it was my favourite era as a fan when I was going to games. You know, I had nothing better than going and watching his tank Rangers 5-0, regardless of how many people may say that, you're going to get an account how poor that Rangers side were. Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares. It's like, look, that's no real problem. It's like Celtic didn't get the memo on that one. It's no their problem that Rangers were an absolute shit show. I loved going there and absolutely hammering them 5-1 at Ibrox and all that. Brilliant, great times. Very, very thankful.
But Rangers were a shit show because of Brendan, Phil.
Oh, he absolutely
made them a shit show.
Yeah, he did. It was that season because they came up in the same summer that we appointed Brendan, and at that point people were criticising us for not sweeping the board in the whole time that they weren't around. So then what did we do for the next 4 seasons? We swept the board while they were actually in the same league as us. So,
Phil, look at that team. What he did with people that I thought, Scott Brown, for example, I think he's the shining light. He was on his way out. His career was on the downward trajectory. Yep. I also look at Rangers signing ex-EPL players like Philip Senderos, for example, Joey Barton. These guys are coming in with big reps. Now it was the banter years. They were made banter years by the manager we had, no?
I would think so. I got added to it for a shadow of doubt. It was just after what happened in that semi-final the season before, we losing. That obviously they milked that for us off. You know, they actually lost the cup final, but they don't mention that one. I think he just had to you think he's a big out. I'll show you. And then of course we had the invincible season that season as well. Nobody could beat us. But yeah, he definitely added to it without a shadow of doubt. And as I say, I've got no ill feeling towards the guy. When he went to Leicester, I was just like, it is what it is. You know, we move on and. So be it. I say I'm very, very happy nowadays for Ange Postecoglou, but I don't look at Leicester's results and get a wee bit of satisfaction when I see they've been beaten so forth. I'm just like, he's moved on now. That's it. And yeah, I think Spurs would probably be a good fit for him. And if Leicester did become available, I don't see Ange Postecoglou even entertaining in it. So yeah.
No. And that's weird though, because I find myself in a different space, David, where I was 6 months ago when the Brighton links are coming up. I said, once bitten, twice is shy. Remember I said that a few times. I think we did a breakfast bar. And I went, look, see if Ange left for fucking any EPL team. Now, and show me someone who can't change their mind and I'll show you an idiot. Right? That is the honest truth. Right? I'll show you an idiot if you can't change your mind. I do believe now that Ange is going, this has got too much like life left in it at Celtic, too much going for it, and he's got an ego, and folk don't want to say Ange has got an ego. Ange has got an ego. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's nothing wrong. I want my manager to have an ego. Martin O'Neill had an ego. Sandy Clarkson. He had an ego. And that's very difficult to let go of. Very difficult to let go of. And if you're going to do it at maybe a young age like Brendan, because you believe in the bright lights, I think Angie's been around the block too often, if that makes sense, that the bright lights don't shine as brightly, for want of a better word, in his eyes. Do you know what I mean? That does elsewhere. I think we've got a guy right now who goes, you want me to go down there for a shelf life of what, 18 months, 24 months? What's the average tenure of a manager in England now? 24 months max. So it's 2 year. It's a 2 year plan. If it's going to be that, I need to be firstly wedged. Like I need to change not just my great grandkids' life. Do you know what I mean? Like they all need to be now sorted forever. Do you know what I mean? To make it worthwhile. Secondly, there has to be a bit of autonomy. I don't think Ange gets that at many clubs. And funnily enough, you look at a Manchester United, and the most success they've had since Mourinho is with this guy Ten Hag, who they've given a wee bit of rein to. And I don't think the other clubs have quite worked out how to square that circle, given managers' reign. I don't think Ange is going to walk in there and be anyone's begging bowl idiot. Do you know what I mean? He's not a dog, mate. He's a fucking master. And that will work in our favour to a point, I think.
Yeah, you just have to look at the managers that have already moved on from clubs in the Premier League this season already. You've already lost Bournemouth, sacked their manager, and he's already been sacked again. Wolves.
Am I not right in thinking, David, just to jump in, 9 out of the 20 jobs have went this season?
Yeah, you must
9
look
out
at
of
that.
20.
Jesus.
I mean, just looking at that from the outside in, that if you just take football out of consideration, would you go and would you leave where you are just now to go work for another company where you've seen the turnover of staff happen that
Can you be telling
frequently?
folk where I work?
I didn't.
The bus will
So,
explode, mate.
yeah. I wouldn't. We'll take my shop for example, right? My barbers, there's plenty of barbershops that can go and work in, but then from the outside looking in, you go, well, that shop there, look how many barbers have left that shop in the space of the last 2 years compared to where you already work, the comforts you've got where you are, what the benefits you have from working here to what you could have over there that might only last a year. You wouldn't. Would you take that risk for? I don't know. Money talks. There's the other argument, but I don't know if I don't believe Ange is fully that drives him fully. I think it's more what he can get out of a club and the success of winning trophies and
David, he's not done yet. I think he'd walk away for Celtic, Phil, with an itch to scratch, and that'll be the Europe thing. And I think he'll have the utmost. I don't know if you remember the trophy day last season, and him and O'Neill were on Sky Sports, and it's the only time I've ever in my life, and by the way, fucking rightfully so, but you've seen Ange like kind of a wee bit in awe.
Aye.
And it was O'Neill. And it was a Martin going, no, fantastic. He's been amazing. And you could see him a wee bit like kind of humbled by that.
Yeah.
But then Ange is, and you know he's done his homework before he even joined. He knows Seville. He knows two group stages, 9 points.
Yeah.
And he knows all this shit. And he's going, fuck that. I ain't fucking leaving with 1 point. Plaudits not points. I'm gonna do something. He's not had a statement win yet domestically. He said the domestic statement wins, the 4-0. The 3-0 I actually thought was a more compelling, compelling win. I thought that one when attacked Scott, I thought that was maybe the night, the lights. I just think that it will help. Yep. The optics look brilliant. Like
they do, yes.
Domestically, he's done the statements. He's done fuck all as far as he's concerned. Folks think I'm slagging Ange here. I'm not. I'm trying to put myself in his shoes.
Yep.
And I think he's one of those guys who goes, I want a Milan win.
Yeah.
I want a Barcelona at home win. I want one of those. And he would leave an unsatisfied manager if he were to leave without that.
I think what David was saying is right. It's no money that motivates Ange. It's the challenge that motivates Ange. And right now, the challenge at Celtic is to get us back into what you were just talking about, the O'Neill era, the Gordon Strachan era. You know, the other night I was obviously doing the Scott Brown episode, and our resident Rangers mischief maker was in the chat, and he was going on about how many knockout games in Europe did Scott Brown win. Unfortunately, that's a stigma that doesn't hang over Scott, but hangs over the club. How long is it now? 2004. So it's like that is the next hurdle. Is Celtic need to get back to a point where they're in Europe after Christmas, and it's not just like a one and done after Christmas. I mean, last season with the Bodo Glint, like, come on, man. I mean, Bodo Glint surprised a few people along the way, but I don't know how we managed to capitulate so badly that night. It was just embarrassing, and it's like
why do you think he got the pass, Phil? Because the away game was basically seen as Andrew already surrendered. I'm like, why would you surrender to a shite team? Remember, away goals mean fuck all now.
Aye, that's right.
So, like, that was a game there to be won. I think he got it wrong, if I'm honest. And again, people don't want to hear it. I thought Andrew was naive in the two-legged affair. But I also flip it and I go, do you know what, Phil? I'll fuck him off. And maybe Ange's been a wee bit fucked off that he's not corrected something. Means you get that more longevity out of him because he goes, I still need to fix that. I'm not fucking happy with that Bodo Glint thing. And Boyce's annoyingly right on this. He's right. I did fuck it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm going to fix it. Do you know what I mean?
Do you not remember his post-match after we get beaten the home leg? And, you know, people are saying, I think one of the reporters was very blunt, says, Andrew, he's effectively out now. And he went, no, it's only half time, mate. You know, in this typical bullish way that he does. So naturally, as a fan, because I came away from that game thinking the same thing, going, we'll do well to turn this around. But when he was giving it that chat, I was like, do you know what? You're right. It is only half time. I'm up for this now. And then he put out that team sheet on the second leg, and it was like,
I think the team sheet's a pass. I think that's a pass, mate, you're giving him. I think he picked the team he thought would win. He was just wrong. Sadly, that's what happened. David, this guy's got aspirations, though. Definitely, that is an itch he needs to scratch.
But then you look at what Phil said. He goes, he likes a challenge. Well, a challenge there is if the right club came along from, like you said, like if a Spurs did come in for Ange in the summer, because like they are going to have, they're keeping Conte as assistant manager to the end of the season. He's still employed. He's going to see out the rest of the season and try and get Spurs to still be in fourth, at least be in the top four. If Ange was to be offered a club like Spurs with the facilities that they have, the players that they have, the stadium that they have, putting yourself up against like Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, we'll put Mikel Arteta in that bracket because of where Arsenal are sitting just now. Your Ten Hags, these top quality managers, he could be putting his wits, his style of football, that brand of football on the biggest footballing stage that there is domestically, is the Premier League, up against the best managers in the world with the best players in the world. You know, that could whet his appetite of the challenge that we know that he likes to put himself forward for. Would he want to go and do that at a Leicester or a Crystal Palace or a Wolves? I wouldn't be too worried about. But like a Spurs, a level of a club like a Spurs would, even a West Ham would maybe concern me. Just, you know, a big London club, but that stadium they've got.
I don't know. I don't think you'll walk away from Celtic without that itch scratch. For this is the. It's almost been a gift. The fact he's done shite in Europe, and he has done shite in Europe. Folk can fucking dress up all they want. It's plaudits, not points, right?
Yeah.
I don't think his European record's very good, right? No. That's the honest truth. Folk don't want to hear that. Fine. I happen to think that might work in our favour in terms of keeping him.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a definite. So that's the next hurdle. It's the next frontier for Celtic. Incredibly, in fact, some people don't want to hear this as well. There's another one. Obviously, we were quite rotten in Europe under Brendan, and we were being a bit rubbish so far in Europe under Ange. But the one in between, Neil Lennon had that amazing campaign where he topped Lazio. Remember that one? So he managed to get it right. So this whole idea that, like, I don't know what's causing it, but look at that in between the Brendan Rodgers and Ange era, we had that phenomenal run, that Europa League group. So he beat Lazio home and away, he had Rennes in the group as well, and Cluj should actually beat us a qualifier. So the team, it's there within touch and distance that Celtic can take some scalps again. I say Lazio are a very, very good team. Still never even won in Italy on Italian soil. So that was a huge statement. So this idea that, I mean, you've talked about the whole day when fans are conditioned, Russell, to give it all the, how are we meant to compete with these type of teams? We did in 2019. Neil Lennon found a way to beat a top Italian team on their own blooming patch. It's like, come on. So
I think the Bustalgia thing is it's weird, David, because when you look back at it, you go, fucking what? And the amount of years we've looked at and we go, Strachan's team, I mean, you've named the players from it in that times, Phil, like, it's an embarrassment they were in the last 16. I think the Lennon one was different. I think it was a moment in time where you had the last generation of folk that could take a bollocking. That was that generation coming to an end in terms of a cycle. I think Joe Ledley's, etc., could take it.
Yep.
Kyle's, for example. I think it all changed like midway through the 2010s where it suddenly had to come the softly approach. That's okay. I get all that shit. But when it comes down to it, people think there's a gulf, David, that doesn't actually exist. The gulf is the same gulf it's always been, mate. See, when Scott McDonald scoring against Man United, that's still a 750 grand footballer from Motherwell scoring against Holland's best goalkeeper of all time, or Ben Foster, whatever it was at the time, against Rio Ferdinand, against Cristiano Ronaldo's playing. It was still a 2 million guy for Serie A, Nakamura scoring the free kicks. It was still like, look at the team we played against AC Milan in those two legs in that last 16. You go, Kaka, Seedorf. Like, it was a shambles how good that team was. Don't tell me the gulf is any narrower now. Folk are obsessed with the money side, but in terms of the actual gulf, it's always been. See, when Alan Thompson scoring fly kicks, David against Ronaldinho's Barcelona. Let's get real here, right? That gulf is always there.
Yeah,
it's how you bridge it.
Yeah, I think because of the inflation of players' price tags have went up so much. That's the real gulf. It's the spending power that's the gulf, not necessarily the players. It's not like you look at some players today and you go, they're like one of the best players in the world, and some people who still go, but they wouldn't need to, your Mbappe's and your, Neymar's, but they couldn't lace Maradona's boots. There's that perspective. That players take a Maradona and your Zidane's and that playing in today's market, astronomical price tags. What was it? Zidane went for again? Was he not a world record transfer at one point?
£48 million.
What does that get?
Don't ask Phil. He's fucking not.
What does that? What does that get you now for a player?
Oh God, Nathan Ake or something like that.
Yeah, it's the price tag is the gulf that we struggle to close. But the players of that caliber, I don't think has changed that much, because you can sit there.
It's not changed. The money is just in their markets. It's so exaggerated. Let's be real here. The Jack Grealish cost £100 million.
Aye, exactly. That's my
Jack
point.
Grealish to me is a player.
We can't swim in that waters, but we could still. I still feel we could put a team that can take a scalp with a Jack Grealish in that side. It's not.
Why
impossible.
not?
Just look at because Kazakhstan come back for 2-0 down to beat Denmark.
I've not checked Kazakhstan's results recently, David, but I'll take your word for it, mate.
It came up with the news.
It was the Euro qualifiers at the weekend. Kazakhstan, they were 2-0 down to Denmark, who were Euro 2021 semi-finalists. Remember, get beat by England at Wembley quite unluckily. So, aye,
So, and I think Kieran's on the money. I think Kieran's very much on the same side of the fence that we are right now. You've got to make your own legends. I think one of the things Ange will be relying on when it comes to the European thing is they'll have found the bollocks now. If I'm fucked off, I hope the players are as annoyed as I am.
Yes.
And I hope I think there was a stat being put in there just to quickly go back, and it was Antonios who came in and he's saying, 4 goals, 82 attempts to 1 goal, only 50 shots on target. And undeniably that's factual, but do you think it F's off the players the same way Phil it would annoy Ange? Hopefully so, because you will see a transformation then. You will see a different attitude. I always felt what O'Neill did with the the players we did well in Europe against, right? For example, I always thought they had to be in the bonnet, a chip on the shoulder, if you like.
Yeah.
Failed EPL players or whatever, like Sutton's 10 million move
Yeah.
flopping, Alan Thompson getting his big money move to Aston Villa flopping in his mind. John Hart's in a few clubs, not quite got the recognition he thought. And I think he brought guys with a chip on his shoulder. And we're right now as a team evolving. I want these guys to now have a chip on their shoulder. I think it's healthy.
Definitely. Reading what Antonius has wrote there, though, 82 attempts on goal. I think I've said before on the show, there's teams in the past that have won the Champions League that haven't even had 82 shots on goal for the entire tournament. Probably Mourinho's Porto would probably fall into that category. That's the type of team. So the fact that we missed that many chances during the group stages, it really should fuck them off, really, because the Shakhtar away game in particular was a really sore one, and it's like, man, we did everything in our power that night. How could we not win that game? We were all over them, had chance after chance, and of course that was one of the things that came back to bite us in the end. So I'd like to think the players will look at that and go, we're not going to make that mistake again. This time, if a chance does come up, we're going to put them away. And again, another word that I've used many times on here, composure is so key. I don't know if it was just on the night. They've just got stage fright or something. But yeah, it's when you're through one-on-one, making that right decision and putting it away, because we can't afford to have another campaign like that. And we come away from going, at least we tried.
I know you mean. David, I mean, there's one guy who did score in the Champions League and he took his opportunity. That was Giacomakis. Have you seen similarities with O so far? If you know, and I'm not saying he's going to be the same or better or worse. Do you think that's a guy though, like going into next season, you would have faith in it to not be intimidated this level? I think that's what Phil's getting at. We don't know whether it's consistency. We don't know what the reasons are, but either way, we'll be blinded by the lights. And is O the type of character I think cut from a very similar cloth to Giacomakis from what I've seen so far? I might be judging very early, but I don't know. I think they're cut from a similar cloth. I think forgetting your surroundings, forgetting the optics, as it were, and just playing your game can be quite a healthy thing. I wonder if Kyogo played the occasion at times, because he's ruthless when he wants to be. I wonder if the big boys, he just shat it a wee bit, right? If I want to put it a better way. I look at O and I go, there's a bit about him that annoys me already, but I don't mind that. I don't mind being annoyed by him. I think there's a similarity with Chaos that he's got as well.
Yeah, he's a bit of a maverick. Yeah, I think there's always that fine line between confidence and cockiness, and I think he verges more on the cockiness side. But that's all right, because when you're going up against a Juventus, a Madrid, a Barcelona, you almost want your guys to be a bit cocky. You don't want them to shy away for the occasion. You want them to feel like, I'm going to score here tonight. I don't care that it's Madrid and Barcelona that I'm up against, or whether it's Motherwell or Dundee United. I'm going to play my game. I know what my strengths are. I know what my qualities are. I've been picked to play in this squad, whether I start or come off the bench, for a reason, and I believe in myself. And I think that's exactly what O is all about. And he's one big physical specimen, and I would want to be, getting in his way if he's coming in for a big diving header or a big bullet header.
David, we're in second season of the evolution of Angie's team. This is, by the way, we've not even finished season 2 yet, right? No. But we expected there to be a shift, if you want to. I'll come back to David on it. We expected a shift in the characters because we know that first summer window. We now have hindsight. And the first summer window was a lot of supermarket sweep. Like Cameron Carter-Vickers was pitched to Celtic. I can tell you that. I'm not an ITK person. But Cameron Carter-Vickers was pitched to Celtic because Spurs didn't have anywhere to go. But the windows that have happened since then, as Ange went, right, I got the job done first year, and a few of them were plasters. Do you know what I mean? Like elastoplast on a wound. I mean, we've muddled through. But as the windows become, this will be his 5th window this summer, I expect everyone that he's bringing in to be more in his mould, to be more of part of the puzzle than we've seen so far. I think, whether we thought Giacomakis fit, that's fucking our right to think that, right? That's fine. If Ange didn't, that's why he gets paid 20 grand a week or whatever he's on. I'm just speculating on that, by the way, before anyone thinks I'm telling everyone what Ange makes here. Right? Mm-hmm. But he gets made to do those decisions for a reason. Sound. If he thinks O's an upgrade, we're not one to argue with it. But it would also tell you this is one that I'm looking at remember he said he prefers to sign people who are persons, not just players. The personality.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to have, because if we are going to make that next step, it's going to need to be guys in the mentality of the manager. And it's got to be, firstly, a winning mentality, and secondly, one that goes, I belong here. I'm not lucky to be here.
It's the way I look at it with the likes of Giakoumakis and these players that have come in and they've been quickly moved on, and like your Abogards and your Giakoumakis and your Ivanovic, but I touched on it on Sunday. It's like he's got his chessboard out here and he's using these pieces. Will do for now. They'll do the job for now until I can get what I'm really wanting. Of course, Giakoumakis worked. I'm just thinking there, of course he worked. I brought him in to do the job that I expected him to do, and it worked because that's who I identified to do the role that I needed Giakoumakis to do for now until I find a player such as O that is maybe the more long-term solution. It's like he has this mold of a player that he wants to do a specific job for the team, and there's a group of them here, right? Who can I get that's available just now? Well, I want O, but I can't get him just now. Well, the Giakoumakis is the next best, is the next thing. He's the short-term solution until I get the guy that I really want. And if hopefully Giakoumakis will score a bunch of goals while he's here to do the job, and then I'll flip him and use the cash to then put towards the younger, maybe you could argue hungrier player, and that's going to be there more long term. It's just these little pieces on his board that he's just moving to get to the goal, the main finishing line that he wants as his overall squad. And it's maybe just, we get attached to these players that are banging in the goals for us, but we are not privy to the to the knowledge that Ange is going, well, he is only going to be here for 18 months because I just need him to bang in the goals for 18 months until I get the boy that I really wanted, that I think might be an upgrade, or what Ange believes to be an upgrade on what we've gotten used to. And it's a very different style of dealing in the transfer market and operating that we've gotten, that we're not quite used to yet, but it looks like we're just going to have to get used to it, because that seems to be the way we're going. If the same with Juranovic, he's a cracking player. Do I need him long term? No. I want the slightly younger Canadian guy that I've got my eye on. We'll keep an eye on him for the next year or two while Juranovic is doing the job I need him to do for now. Make a wee profit on him, and then I'll get the guy that I really wanted.
It seems to be the model where we talked about it on Sunday in the Sunday Blether, where you mentioned that Troy Deeney story, and I was like, he was in that list of guys that Joe Hart and McCarthy came from, where we needed some bodies in, and Andrew was like, well, I'll take him and him. There's going to be players like that along the way. Andrew wasn't going to get his exact team that he wanted initially. It was going to he was going to take away well. So there's a few players that have just been the needs must type signing. And what was the one that you said the other day, David? Was Abelgard was probably signed to fill the hole until he could get a Awata?
Yeah.
So there's going to be ones like that along the way.
Abelgard's a joke of a signing, mate. That's a joke of a signing. I don't think that was an Ange Postecoglou production. But Quinny comes in. I mean, you get Quinny on the bus, eh? Apparently he does some other podcasts. I'm sure he does really well. It's probably more sophisticated than ours, but I think Quinny would be fun. I like Quinny. He wants to go back, though, to Argentina, Phil. And he thinks there's a summer crazy generation of talent emerging. Now, we've got a very, very vocal pundit, and Mark Kearney's the boy. Like, I love Mark. I love Mark. The judge, as I christened him. And it's stuck because he is the judge.
Yes.
But he said he felt Bernabeu was a complete disappointment. He's a raffle. The raffle winner stuff's a bit steep, right? It's just a wee bit of power.
In that Trevor Sinclair mode.
However, do you think, Phil, that based on the only one we've got from Argentina being Bernabeu, what's Quinny basing that one on? Because I'm not entirely sure. I think that's a trajectory or a bit of travel I'm overly convinced with always works.
First off, I wouldn't base, just on Bernabeu's performance that another one might come in and be a similar ilk. I think it may benefit Bernabeu if another one another Argentinian was signed because, I believe that was my point that was made. Young lad. Well, I say young, we keep on going about, he's 22. It's not really young, but obviously he's travelled halfway across the world. The only Spanish-speaking member of the team, I believe.
But when you look at the trajectory, Phil, though, South America to Celtic, it's difficult, isn't it?
It has
but
been.
Having said that, just very quickly, I mean, if you told me 2 years ago half our team would be for the J League or Asia, South Korea, now we've got involved, I'd have said that will not fucking work either.
Yeah,
of course. Get it.
Aye.
We've had an insight on how the club have handled the Japanese players integrating into the country, the squad. With getting the translators in, changing the menu up so they have their native food that they're getting used to. And obviously brought in more than just one. Now, Bernabe speaks Spanish, so has it been has the ball been dropped slightly? We go, well, he speaks Spanish. If I had loads of Spanish players integrate into British football, they'll be fine. Whereas maybe Argentinian culture is far too difficult to just come off and just be left to his own devices. I'm not saying that Celtic haven't done it, but I've not seen any indication that they've brought in Argentinian cuisines and they've got a Spanish translator in, and they've it's almost quite difficult.
He's not that favourable. He's not had those cozy, that comfortable sort of thing. I get what you mean.
And within 2 weeks, he's got a driving conviction of drink driving, and we don't know.
Which gets turned into nonsense as well, David.
Absolutely, yeah. Because what I was about to say is, you don't know.
Taken out of context. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you froze up there, but what you said is taken out of context.
I said he gets taken, not you. I think that narrative, though, Bernabe's now a drink driver, he was pished behind the wheel, it got totally blown out of complete reality.
Yeah, he's just maybe doesn't understand can't even have one beer with my meal and get in my car. But it's not like that in Argentina. Nobody's told me. You don't know. Like he's maybe just. I mean, he's a young. We always go, but how young's young? Like when do we cut that off? Well, he is a 21-year-old lad that's moved from the other side of the world and maybe not had this sort of bubble made for him to feel more at ease and at home. And he's maybe, so we don't know, and that could be playing a part in his lack of game time and maybe.
Phil, on the general point though, do you think, like Quinny's suggesting, that the Argentinian market, or maybe let's generalise it a wee bit more, the South American market would be a focal point for Celtic come the next strategy? I don't know, because it goes against the wee bit, again, the grain of what we've been discussing all day. And that was, we hope that come this summer we go all out for one or two pieces of the jigsaw that are real quality, not speculative ones that I think if we were to dive into South America would be speculative. Whether they're good or not would remain to be seen. But I would definitely think it would be a gamble.
Aye, because usually with the South American countries, when a player has sort of reached the zenith, they're usually playing in Europe by that point. If they're still in their native country, they're usually still young and don't really reach their potential yet, or they've came back to play there in the last sort of dying embers of their career, like Carlos Tevez did for Boca Juniors and stuff like that. So it would be a bit against what we're saying earlier. We want some real, marquee signings and so on.
Live ones, Phil. We want live ones. That's what we want. We want them live ones. You know what I mean?
Again, though, when it comes to is it a bit of a gamble, it always is. Like every signing's got its own risk. But if Ange thinks it is one that can do a job, then obviously I'll trust him. Unfortunately, there's one South American player I can think of that's done not too bad in Scotland, but we won't. You know who I'm talking about. It's certain Colombian. He did score a lot of goals, mind you. Wouldn't like him in our team, to be fair, because he probably gets sent off a lot as well. But in terms of goal ratio, if you could get a player from that one of the countries that can turn out about 20 goals a season, then I'd be more than happy with that. But there's a lot of gamble there.
Same to a European club as well, though. Phil, signed to a, so he'd already been in European football.
Yeah, sure. It was.
He's up for delving. You're up for delving into that. Let's look over. I know Ange doesn't like looking over the neighbour's wall, David. Right? He doesn't like looking over the fence. He's focused in his own house. That's fine, and it's good. It's good turn of phrase. It makes you sound it, but we're allowed to. We're not managing Celtic tomorrow. Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos are about to both be out of contract in 3 months. max 2 months probably. I don't know why I looked at the date.
One's
there.
made a
Kinda
signed a
knew that.
pre-contract somewhere else as well, I think.
Where do you see them ending up realistically? What level have we found out? And we've watched them beat our opponents for a hell of a long time. Where do you feel their actual level is at? Because it's very easy to always slate the opponent, and I get all that bullshit. And it's always easy for us to talk up our own and go, he could do it there, he could cut it, top 4 clubs, etc. in England, yada yada. But now we're in a situation or in a space where we know these two guys who have been rivals of ours for the last couple of years. Last 4 or 5 years, in fact, together they've been in it. We now find ourselves in a space where the likelihood is they'll be able to walk away in a free, which means they'll be paid a hell of a lot more money in terms of wages and sign-on fees they would normally get, which would elevate you to thinking they're going to go to a club of purpose or stature. Where do you actually see these two sort of plant pots ending up, David? Because I'm not entirely sure these guys are as good as we've been made out to believe in Scotland, if I'm totally honest.
Well, I don't know how true it is with Morelos' pre-contract with Seville or Sevilla deal is, but I did think he would be looking at maybe like a Turkey or a warm weather country like a mid-table Spanish team, or is it a Turkish team for Morelos. I even maybe at one point when he was ragdolling that boy at Borussia Dortmund in the Europa League, that he might fancy his chances in German football. Not a top-tier German side, but, like a mid-table side might have been interested in him after that performance. But he's fell off a cliff since that game, really. Obviously got injured before the final of that.
David, it's a fucking numbers game at the end of the day, though. Let's get real here. Morelos at one point had good goal conversion numbers, and he was doing it against the best. You can only play what's in front of you. And at the end of the day, they were playing the UEFA Cup, or the Europa League as it's called now, and he was scoring goals against decent teams, the teams that they were up against. I'm not convinced, though, that he's going to get that big move, because I think he's a fanny, and I think he's been exposed a wee bit. And I also want to flip it and go, Ryan Kent might look like the better professional, the better player, but his numbers do not stack up. He would not get a look in our team, for example. And that's Celtic we're talking about, a club that we've just basically spent this afternoon discussing where will they spend their money. I don't think we would invest much in a Ryan Kent. There's a body of evidence to suggest he's all frill, nae fucking knickers, mate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Ryan Kent one's a difficult one. I always kind of got the impression with Ryan Kent that he only tried to turn up against us, and never really. Obviously, I know he scored a couple of goals against us, but that seemed to be the only time he really. I don't know. He kind of.
Yeah.
What I found when I spoke to my couple of mates that are Rangers fans, they found that he almost got shackles put on him when Gio came in, and I don't think that really worked in his favour. But then again, I'm seeing a comment that makes me laugh. It's like it's two good sleepovers a year. It's a very difficult one with Kent, because I thought there was a lot of potential.
Let's go a different way. You've watched every single Celtic Rangers game in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
What has he brought to the party over the 4 or 5 years? I don't think enough. I know he scored the odd goal here and there.
Aye.
But I genuinely do not think he's I don't think in those fixtures, that's where you turn up. That's why we maybe hark back, David, to your Dembélés, your Edwards, because they always showed up in these games when they needed to. And I'm not convinced. Obviously, it's funny these guys might be leaving, right? We just laugh because they were quoted as £50 million players, left, right, and centre. But the reality is, I wouldn't feel a wave of relief, David, if either of them, I wouldn't go, thank fuck they're gone. I think they're both. I think they're both a bit affront. I don't think either are.
I think you just
especially as been made out.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be like, oh, thank God he's gone. But I think we do kind of go. It's quite funny because they did think they had a top player on their books. I think Leeds have always been slightly there or thereabouts with Ken. I could see him maybe going there, or a championship side.
How would he do the EPL?
In the Premier League, I think he'd get lost in the shuffle. I don't think he'd be a starter. You just have to look at what's the boy that went to Southampton, Aribo. He's one of their top performers,
Absolutely.
and he can't even get. He's already been, I think, been considered a flop. So
have they been hyped up too much, Phil?
Oh, by far.
It's the English, right? It's the English tag that he has that's probably doing him a favour.
Yeah,
he's English, so that's good.
Tell me why, Phil, these guys wouldn't get a game for Celtic.
Why they wouldn't? I mean,
because I don't think they would.
No, I mean, look at the forum of them. They were shown in one wonder season that they had, and whatever circumstances were around that. But other than that, the other games when it has been, full houses and whatnot. Morelos went how long before he finally scored against us? And then it was in the old empty stadiums. He said we can't. The only thing he'd really done up to then was he took a swipe at Scott Brown at the end of a game, which they printed all over T-shirts. I talked about on Friday night, and then another game where he did the gun celebration at the lower Jogstein stand, and then they completely bottled it when they came back for the winter break that season. So I've always said that I was really happy that I survived that drive-by shooting that day to witness that bottle job for Rangers, because I was really thankful that those bullets missed me that day when he does be drive-by shoot. But other than that, he's not done anything great. The old two-step over thing is very much true. He's got like one trick in his books. It's the type of thing that if Ange had a player like that would just do his head in, and he would not be entertained by it at all. He'd be like, nah, son, you're not bringing anything to the table. Morelos, he has got a good goal ratio, but man, he's fell off a cliff when it comes to fitness and stuff like that. Could you imagine Ange trying to, manage that? Like, no chance.
He'd be lost, I think, in I think in the bigger leagues. I think the best hope for Morelos is to find another league similar to Scotland with like a massive club. Yeah. Do you know? Does that make sense? Like, not necessarily the standards as high. What's that mean?
You end up in Sweden or something. back to the.
I think Turkey's realistic for him. I think Turkey will be realistic for him, and someone who can pay whatever inflated wages he thinks he's worth. Mm. But in terms of actually a pound for pound top league, I don't think he would cut it. Let's look at the Celtic team right now. And when you look at guys, we're biased. Of course we're biased, right? But I look at Rio Hatate, for example, Phil, and I go, mate, he could play in any of the top leagues. And it's not there for a self-indulgent thing. I think he could. I look at Kyogo and I go, I think maybe he's found the perfect club. Yeah. If I'm honest, I think he's the main man at Celtic, and that's maybe the right thing for him.
Yeah, I think so.
But I look at other players, I mean, Cal McGregor, for example. I look at Cal McGregor and I go, he doesn't want to play anywhere else. But I don't necessarily mean that means Celtic, he's found his level in the SPFL. I think Cal McGregor just loves being the main man at Celtic.
Yeah.
Could he do it in the EPL? Absolutely. And then, for me, the poster boy of this Celtic team is Jota. And that is my boy, right? I've said to you before, I think he's Celtic's best player, right? I just think he can do things with a tangerine, not an orange, a tangerine that I don't think, Ryan Kent could even dream of doing with a fucking beach ball. I think you look and beach balls, by the way, used to be great fun at Ibrox. I think you look at someone like Jota and you compare it with Ryan Kent. If Jota was out of contract right now, Phil, I would be alarmed as to where he would end up and what he would end up doing on our TV screens, because you go, fuck. Do you know what I mean? He's that good. Ryan Kent's an nobody cares, mate, to me.
Aye, that's it. He's all step overs, but there's no end product, no substance. But Jota, he is a guy that will go to the top. I think his trajectory is the only way is up for him, essentially, once he's done his 2 or 3 years with Celtic, because unfortunately just the model that we work in, and it's been like this for years, it's not something new. We shouldn't be surprised if 2-3 years down the line, these players, they come, they give us.
But Phil, we're seeing John in comparisons though, like with these two, like Morelos and Kent are just a point of, I think no one else wants to talk about in the MSM because they're staring in the face, they're about to leave for free. But these are the contrasts and comparisons we need to make with our top guys. And in my opinion, when I suggest to you Jotas and Kyogo, I think they're playing a different sport from Morelos and Kent. Maybe I'm biased, But I do think they are playing a different sport. I really do. I don't see the impact those Muppets would have down south. I see a Jota, for example, having a Hatate. These are footballers, mate, that could do it at any level, at any time.
Aye, without doubt. Hatate is definitely one, and another one in our team as well that I think has got only ways up trajectory is Carter Vickers. That's another one as well that I think will seamlessly fit in. It'll probably be a move to England eventually. But I think the English will now be looking at what he's done up here and see how he's matured, and now he's been able to get a good, consistent run of games, because obviously he's been moved around from one club to another for about 3 or 4 years. Same with Jota. Jota was out on loan constantly for 3 or 4 years. Now he's actually settled somewhere. But with Carter Vickers, I think a lot of English scouts will now take note, right, this is what this guy is capable of once he gets a consistent run and he is the main man at the back. But
we're talking about 2 guys that were in a Europa League final.
It's incredible.
And yeah, I generally don't see them. I don't think they'll be viewed. I think our view might be biased, but I think David, folk will view them the same way we are. But you wouldn't trust a Ryan Kent or a Morelos to impact your EPL season, even if you're one of the bottom half teams. No way.
No chance. I mean, Morelos is a disciplinary record alone would be enough to put people off, but it's quite astounding. You'd think that would push their value up. Is it a case of they've just stayed too long, that they've missed the boat, so now they have to walk away for nothing? And even at that, they've not even guaranteed to have a club, lined up. With 6 months to go, they're allowed to negotiate with anybody. And we're not hearing any stories. There's a story there
mentally.
Seville apparently were going to sign Morelos, and then
this Phil, English Celtic are 9 points behind in the league.
Aye.
And we've got 12 players out of contract. Our 2 best players are out of contract in 3 months.
Aye.
We would be getting savaged for that. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Negligence, if anything. Right. We'd be totally criticised for not tying these guys down. I mean, they were talking about, just with Edward going into his last year, his contract, that was seen as a disaster.
It came out a huge thing. You're right.
We still got, what did we get for Edward? What was it? Just shy of 20 million?
£18 million.
Yeah. And last year,
18 million.
And then Ayer as well. We got
Ayer.
What did we get for Ayer?
With 13 million, I think it worked out in the end. Aye.
1 year left, it was a disaster. It was seen as you can't believe they're letting these guys run down to the last year of their contract.
Aye.
That was a disaster.
Mind Stuart Armstrong signed an extension, so we ended up getting 7 million for him with 1 year left on his contract, which isn't bad going for
I hated that whole thing. That extend it for another year when he just wants to fuck off. Fuck him off. Do you know what I mean? I look at Armstrong, for example, and you go, you couldn't let a gluffer or Yotati. That's not recency bias. As you know, Phil, I find recency bias very annoying.
Yeah.
I don't think he's even playing the same sport. One other one I want to go on to. I know, David, you need to go in 2 minutes, mate. You can dive off as soon as you're ready, pal. That's all good. One other one I want to go into, Phil, before we go. It's been brilliant this afternoon, isn't it?
It's flowed really, really well.
I've loved it. Alistair Johnston, someone was saying I could see as a captain, I think, in the comments. I want your thought. David, before you go, you've got 1 minute. You take it away. I see it. I totally get why folk are saying that. They're not jumping the gun.
He's captain material. Yep, definitely. The guy can speak. The guy conducts himself really, really well. He's there to back up any player that's on the pitch. He's foaming at the mouth, hoping that something's going to happen so he can do that. And I don't know if it was somebody on the pod that made it aware that he's in charge of dealing with the Canadian national teams. Was it yourself?
It was me. ITK, mate.
IT Canada. If his national side peers are allowed, I've put the vote of confidence in him to do that, then it speaks volumes that he's obviously clearly a leader in that locker room as well. So yeah, I could totally see him being captain material or vice captain while McGregor's here. Totally agree with that.
Phil, Alistair Johnston's captured the hearts and the minds of a lot of us very quickly. And again, it's very easy to jump in the bandwagon with some. I think David's right, that he's got a bit about him that you can't help but fall in love with a wee bit. And when he talks, you talking the talk is one thing. Can you walk the walk? And I've got the vibe of him that I think he's all action, mate. I think he is definitely someone. I have went out of all of Angie's signings. I look at the summer window I know Moyes ended up doing what he's done, and he's fucking embarrassing.
guy.
Right? But out with that,
Yeah.
none of them have even laid a glove in their first 11. And I include Haksabanovic in that. As much as I like Haksabanovic, he is not a considered first team regular. Right? End of. Johnston's walked into that role, mate, and he has strolled it so far.
Yes.
And he's got a bit about him. I see longevity. I see him as a future captain as well. I do. And I don't think, again, he's one of these markets that we bought him from that he has jumped into the Celtic thing going, Celtic's massive. Like, I'm the lucky one. That's quality to see that.
As the thing is with Johnston, where you just knew right away we've got a good one here, is he got the ultimate baptism of fire. His first game was at Ibrox, where you see the team sheet, you're actually like, oh, what a place to get your debut. But then he came through it, I feel, with flying colours. He never really hid during the game. He was always shown for the ball. He looked pretty lively. So it's like, okay, we're off to the races now with this boy. If there's any doubts about, how he's going to integrate in, what a place to start him, and he came through. So right away you knew we've got a player here, and ever since then, I think he's went from strength to strength. It's been a phenomenal replacement for Juranovic. I know was very, very high.
I don't think he's a replacement for Juranovic, Phil. I think he's an upgrade.
Oh, aye, well, obviously he's taking Janovic's spot, but he's taking
my opinion, though. I genuinely think this is an upgrade.
Aye. Because there was a lot of fans that would have been concerned, thinking, Canada, and sort of the MLS, what can we expect there? But no, the players are out there to be found, and Johnson should be a great shining example of that. And for a future captain, I can definitely see it. He's got the personality traits and that, as David just listed off, to be a good captain. I just love that he's always, he always be right in there, sticking up for any of his teammates and stuff like that. He's not afraid to put it about a wee bit. Of course, there are many different ways to skin a cat, as you like to say, Russell. Many different ways to be a captain. Again, when I saw with Scott Brown the other night, and then we went to Callum McGregor, and people were concerned about, can McGregor do the whole captaincy? Well, yeah, of course he can. He just won't do it the same way that Brown did it. Every captain can be different, but Johnston is, I'd say, more akin to the Brown style of captaincy, I reckon. But
who is Celtic's vice captain?
Well, common sense would say Joe Hart, but I don't think it is. I think it's Carter Vickers.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, Carter Vickers. But I think Johnston's going to... I think he's part of it, man. I think we've got a leader. I think we've signed a leader. And again, if this is the next evolution, as we call it, or, Andrew's beginning to be able to buy not just really good players, but people... I look at Juranovic's body language. I look at the guy who scored an own goal and he was smirking, and I looked like a fanny. Well, I do look like a fanny, but I looked at him like he was a fanny as well. I just didn't like that whole thing. I thought, I'm not convinced he's part of this. I think he's on Juranovic brand. Johnston, I look at and I go, wants to be part of Celtic. Juranovic, maybe Giakoumakis. I'm just blinded because I liked him. Maybe he was part of Giakoumakis brand, and Ange wants folk on Celtic brand, if that makes any sort of tiny bit of sense.
It's a case that he's sold the club to them. And yeah, I think what you said's right about Johnson, where he realises that I've walked into a really big deal here, a big club, and he's well on board with it. And I think going back to something we said earlier on with Ange and his phone calls that they talk about, I think it only takes one phone call with Ange and he can sway them on to, this club's a lot bigger than you may think, by the way. It really is a big deal. So he's got them all singing from the same hymn sheet, essentially.
Same spreadsheet, if you want. Anyway, that's us 3:05. We will call it there. It's been brilliant. What a wee Bhoycie Bus extra. It's been so many of you live. I can't thank you all enough. Make sure you share, like, subscribe, slag my hair all you want. We're all for it. Phil, David, have a brilliant day. Enjoy what you're doing. Thanks so much for jumping on the Bhoycie Bus. Mondays will never be the same again.
Well, you've all that stuff at the start. They won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I'm like in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.